is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Carrie Thomas is a retired nurse, but she keeps busy with her own blog site, writing a column for her local newspaper about historical people and places. And she wrote a book series based on her dad's life as a mob enforcer, an outside contractor, as she puts it. Now she's written her first book for Page. It is entitled The Haunting of a Family, and it's based on a true story. Carrie, how's that possible?
I stumbled upon a family. They've been haunted by the same ghost and entities for somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30 years. And I asked them, I said, well, how do you know that they're the same ghost? I mean, so you move from one haunted house to another. And they said, no, we've seen the ghosts. They're the same one.
How did they see the ghosts?
Well, because they manifest. They manifest them. And I'll give you an example, like the little girl in the story. Her name's Christina, and Chris walks into the bedroom, and there in the closet is this old hag-looking woman, and she's trying to encourage her to come into the closet. And, she waves her in, and, of course, Chris runs out. And then when they move to another house, they walk into the room, and their mom is in the room reading, and outside the window is the same woman, the same hag, and she's sitting in a rocking chair, and she just smiles at them. And what was unusual is this is 2 stories up. It was the same. And then in a third house, that same hag, the same woman, chases Chris into town about 2 miles, chases her into town in the middle of the night.
It sounds like American Horror Story.
I don't know. I haven't seen that one. But yeah, the same specters, the same ghost. There's a man that you hear his footsteps, and they recognize the footsteps everywhere they go. So yeah, they said it was pretty terrifying growing up like that.
And how did they reconcile this? Did they talk? Did they communicate with these apparitions or whatever?
No. Based on religious beliefs, no, they don't ever communicate with these entities. As far as coming to terms with it, a lot of like Chris denies, and she just won't talk about it. It was like pulling teeth, getting anything out of her. But yeah, for the most part, she just doesn't want to talk about it. And then the one boy, he just kind of laughs it off, but I think you can see that, he was troubled by it. And then the other boy, he talked a good bit about it. Now the father, he will deny. He lies and denies like you would not believe. And then when you tell him, well, your kids are saying such and such, and he's, I don't remember any of that. But you can tell that he does remember that, and he's kind of surprised that you know it.
Why are they being haunted?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. And, yeah, the mom's kind of freaked out because, like I said, she was 2 stories in the air.
Jeez. And are they frightened by these ghosts? Are they afraid they're going to hurt them?
I don't know. I don't know if they could hurt them. I know that being a child, they're, of course, unnerved by the paranormal. But I think for the most part, they don't fear being hurt. Their religious belief, they are the devil's minions, and that's what the spirits, the ghosts are, is just demons and that trying to convince you that they're deceased when they're not. And so that's what they believe. So they just kind of, turn to God, I guess, for safety. I don't know how else to explain it. The kids are all grown now, and they've moved on. Now the last house, I should say, the oldest son said that after his parents divorced, he stayed there with his mom. He said, and you could tell a significant shift that there wasn't so much paranormal activity anymore. And he speculates it was his father because his father was a pedophile. That's why the parents divorced. It came out that the father was a pedophile, and the father is now living in one of the other houses that was haunted. And he says you can feel the distinct presence there.
Wow.
So it's with the father. It's not with the mother.
Jeez, what an interesting story, Carrie. Do you have people that follow you, that read you, that wait for you to write about things?
Well, on my blog, I have anywhere from 2 to 3,000 readers that follow me.
Are they buying your book? Are they going to buy your book?
Um, I probably should try to promote that a little bit more, but I feel like I have a nephew who sells Herbalife, and I feel like anytime I'm with him, he chokes me with it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that.
Oh, come on, Carrie. You can do it. You don't have to choke people with it. Thank you. A creative impulse suppressed most of his life propelled Chris Pennington into writing in 2002. In the last year, he's released 2 books with Paige. His first one was called Masters and Bastards, and this one brings in a vampire sci-fi element. It is entitled The Handbringer. Welcome back, Chris.
Well, The Handbringer it is essentially kind of a retro book in a sense that it goes back to Bram Stoker's original elements of vampires and Dracula as he foresaw that entire Balkan mythology. And I try to do a more contemporary view on it, so of course I had to throw in age-old favorite of time travel. So you get time travel meets Balkan vampires when the myths really fermented the strongest, which was in the 1500s and 1600s. So I wanted to see what it would be like if modern, highly trained specialists were to venture back into that time and to that age and deal with those primal elements at the formation of those myths, assuming that the myths were reality and not just mythology as we know them to be.
All right, so we start out with a cop from Dallas who loses his son. He's got a couple of events that change his life, but what I find interesting is that he ends up being re-engineered.
Yes, and that was the only way possible to, in this multiverse imagination of what the Earth as it might have been, that was the only way for me to fathom that he could actually go back in time, him or any member of his team, and pull off a stunt like this without taking modern weaponry, because modern weaponry would be an anachronism and it would completely alter the Earth's future. So they would have to be able to go toe-to-toe with their opponents without the advantages of modern technology.
So he's got like this superhuman strength, and he goes back to medieval Romania to fight vampires.
Yes, ma'am. And hopefully eradicate this plague before it reaches the 21st century and endangers mankind in the future, which is one of the team members that they've got has prognosticated is going to happen with all his mathematical genius. This is the dark plight that he foresees.
And there's a beautiful woman that he can't have.
Yeah, Oriana, she's in the past, and she's ever elusive, and only time will tell, whether or not this can come to fruition. It's almost like there's this destiny or this bond that has existed between them through all the centuries. And I don't want to give away too many elements of the story, but her living into the future as an ageless creature, it was her blood that immunized him, that allowed the genetic processing to take place, that it would allow him to be re-engineered without actually becoming a vampire.
Oh, nice twist.
I try to cut down on the villains' expositions because they get a little too generic, but, even the villains have their own little contributions to helping us understand the story. And, I don't leave any loose ends in it.
All right. Well, hang in there, man. Keep writing.
Oh, it's been an experience, and like I said, writing those books and seeing them turn out the way I wanted them to turn out, and getting the feedback that I've gotten and the positive reception from others, I felt like I hit the ball out of the park, even if it's not commercially there at this juncture, and it was really worth it.
Aw, nice, Chris. That's so great to hear. Thank you. We'll talk to you again. Our next author, Deborah Armbruster, has been an artist since she was 4 years old, and she writes and illustrates stories for her Sunday school class, which ended up playing a role in the publication of her first book entitled Patch's New Name. Deborah.
Many of the children were taken care of by their aunts and uncles or other people because of unforeseen circumstances, or there'd be 4 children by 2 different sets of parents, and those parents married, and they were all a new family. So some have been adopted, some have, and that encouraged me to write a book about Patches, and how he was adopted out of that home, and he figured out at the end of the book, after he grew up in the home and matured, that it wasn't so bad being adopted.
Okay. Patches
Yeah.
is a kitten, and how does he wind up getting adopted?
Well, this little girl wanted a kitten, and the mother found this family that had kittens, and she picked the one that was the friendliest and the cutest, and there was 3 in the litter, and she picked out Patches, and that was his original name. He gets it changed to Tiger by the end of the book. She changes his name to Tiger, so it's a sweet book.
And you talk about, how it's tough for Patches in the beginning, right?
Yes, it is, because he doesn't know why he's being taken away, but he soon just learns Caitlin, the little girl that adopts him, provides him with food and water and shelter and a warm bed, and all his needs are met. He does miss his mother and brother and sister. At the very end of the book, Patches realizes that his brother and sister received a good home just like he did. So this book is mainly about adoption, foster care, unforeseen situations, being taken away from your parents, due to maybe death or different things that might have gone wrong.
So your Sunday school kids must love this book.
Yes, and then, I had been an artist all this time, and I didn't realize I wanted to use my talent. I already used it in the church where I did murals in the back, about 7 murals of different scenes of the resurrection, and that's how it happened. And the children love me there. And I've read this book so many times, and I've tried to keep up with a lot of these children. They don't have a lot of money, so I just, whoever is there that day, I pick a name out and they receive the book. And we have a
That's
good
so
time.
nice. That is so nice.
I've done 2 book signings. I might in the near future be in front of children in the school district, the public schools. I might be doing that. So far, I have sold a few books, but I think with when people, if they would just buy it and read it and get the feelings I had when I wrote the book, because the illustrations are the little girl in that is my daughter. The kitten is my sister's cat, Missy, and the scenes in there of the house is my mother's house. Inside my mother's house, Caitlin with patches on the arm of the chair. It's a personal book, and it's a true book, And being adopted is hard. Sometimes it's a good situation, sometimes it's a bad situation. I think anybody, even if they're 80 years old, would enjoy this book because they can associate how Patches did so well adapting to his new environment. It's an emotional book, and it's an inspirational book. And what I like about it most is there's no cussing, bad language, fighting. It's all just a simple, nice book.
All right, Deborah, thank you so much. We have to take a quick break, but we are coming right back. You should too. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you: printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
We are back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. J.A. Landry has published 5 books since he became a writer in 1990. His latest one is with Page. It is a thriller entitled Solitary Refinement, based in part on his experience as a former information sciences architect.
Solitary Refinement is revolving around the lead character named Mackenzie King, or Mac. He's in information sciences. He's an architect, and he works in New York, just like I used to. His nickname is King because he's like the best in the show. So he was contacted by a anonymous source and gets this lead job in this think tank for he doesn't know who. But it's like a sworn to secrecy. He signed the contract, the whole bit. And they took the best of every type of architect they could find all around the world. And they're supposed to come up with a way to harvest energy that hasn't been done before. And so they would harvest oil, shale, gas at the ocean's floor. The whole idea is to get this all done in secret. The U.S. government is behind it, and the oil companies are behind it. And right in the middle of the book, Mac and his team are actually down below the surface in these specially designed submarines, and they were quite successful at it, but leaving behind them were wakes and tsunamis. And Mac fixes that problem. He knows what it is. He knows why those are being caused. And they end up planting like over a dozen of these underwater energy resource, kind of like a pump, almost like they do offshore in the Gulf of Mexico here. But Mac decides that they're taking a lot of the knowledge he brought up and implementing it, or planned to implement it when he said not to because it would be way too dangerous. So he gets out of the project safely, but the companies and all the shareholders and sponsors are after him. They don't want any witnesses to be able to testify if they were ever caught what exactly they did or who they did it for. So when Mac leaves, the bad guys put a APB out on him, or a hit. He goes into witness protection, or WITPRO as they call it in the book. And that means him and his family, and it's really just two kids, but they're everything to him. And so they take Mac and they put him away in the woods of Maine. At the end of the book, somebody finds out where his daughter is living, his young daughter, and they plan to kidnap her and put her up for ransom. But Mac has a lot of different connections. They make sure his daughter gets to where he is in his house safely, and then they follow these, they're actually hitmen, into Boston, their boss, who was also Mac's boss in the project. They bomb the place, and they make sure everybody's gone. But the last thing I'll say is that Mac gets together with one of the fellow contractors that was on their project, and they end up trying to get together. And Mac's a hero, really, because he brings about the kind of change that everybody wants.
Right.
Suffice it to say, Legacy Energy is out, and the newfound energy is discovered and is in.
Okay, so you've been writing now for several years. Do you have a following?
I do. I have a considerable following. I happen to be disabled. It's not that easy to get me around.
It's really
I have a Facebook page, and I have a website, so people have no problem finding my book.
Right.
I'm trying to get the word out, and we'll see what happens.
All right, that's all you can do. Thank you. Markeisha Galloway was inspired to write when she had a daughter with a very rare birth defect. She felt compelled to share her story and refused to give up until her book was published. It is entitled Raising Miracle.
She was born with anencephaly, and it's where like a portion of your brain doesn't fully develop. And so all she had was the back of her brain and her brainstem. And I never heard of it until I was pregnant with her, actually. And so babies with that condition normally don't live too long after birth. They usually live for like a few seconds, minutes, hours, days, or weeks. My daughter lived 2.5 years. And at the time when I had my daughter Miracle, my oldest daughter was only 3. So, to have a newborn baby that needs 24-hour care to a child that is healthy, that don't have nothing wrong with them. That's what's difficult, like right there in itself. Like you hear about it, but people don't know how it is, especially if there's other kids involved too as well, and if you're dealing with it by yourself or you're not dealing with it by yourself. 'Cause it can, cause a strain, like if you're in a relationship or, what I mean, it's stressful. And so when you dealing with that, people who have not, they don't know really what to say to you. And it's just like want to share my story and hopefully like it will just help and inspire other people that been through it or that is going through it. And to know, like they're not alone. There's other people that's out here that, that been through that.
Well, how did you deal with it? Did you have help?
No, I didn't. It really taught me a lot. She really couldn't talk or anything, so I had to learn her. So I had to learn through like her facial expressions, her emotion, and everything. Cause she didn't cry. She couldn't tell me if she was in pain or anything. That's something I had to figure out on my own. And so for 2.5 years, she was under hospice care. It really taught me a lot, patience, because I really had to be patient with her, and it was a lot.
Now, doctors told you she was going to be born with this, right?
Mhm. It is so crazy. I was 2 months actually. They discovered she had brain tissue. They were just like most babies with a brain tissue that's hanging outside their head, they're not gonna live long during a pregnancy. So they were trying to get me to get an abortion. And I told them no. And they just kept asking me like, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes. I don't believe in abortions. I'm gonna just keep going with the pregnancy." When I was 6 months, the doctors did an MRI, and then that's when I found out that she had anencephaly. So it was pretty much the same thing, steady telling me she's not gonna live long. And when I got to the end of the pregnancy, it was just the same thing, like she's not gonna live long. I was in the hospital for 3 days. We went straight to hospice. We was there for like 2 weeks, and then she went home. It's not easy, but when I was dealing with it, I was dealing like with depression because like when I found out what was going on, I went into a straight depression. I couldn't believe that this was happening to me. Like I'm carrying a baby, not knowing if my baby was gonna live long or anything, but I didn't give up on her. No, I kept fighting for her to the end and just making sure she got the care that she needs. And it was just want to let parents know it is hard, but like don't give up, have faith, and God will see you through it.
All right, Markeisha, I give you a lot of credit. Thank you. Finally, Elisa Cornett started writing in the 7th grade, and by her senior year of high school, just 2 years ago, she wrote her first book. It is entitled Inseparable.
It's about finding yourself as an individual through like a science fiction and fantasy way where you're able to escape your own life for moments, but be able to relate to their own problems and to grow as a person and to find where you belong. The story actually started as a crazy dream I had, and I had my friends read it, and they encouraged me throughout the process to continue writing it. There is Renavine, and there is also Adriana, and she goes through, it's set in a past time period instead of futuristic right now.
Mm-hmm.
And she's running away from these people that attacked her village, and she ends up into this fantasy realm through a portal. And I can't say anything else about her because it spoiled the story. So Renavine is more of the futuristic base, and she's more of a school age, middle school through high school level. And she picked out of a group of students to become part of the military for their government, which is ranked higher than what the government is at the time. And she has to be able to fight her way through the ranks and start really a revolution of those people. It's all set in the future. It's about inspiration to know that no matter what they are, what handicaps them from doing something, that they will be able to go out and try to at least do it. And if they fail, just keep on going and keep trying, because they can do anything no matter what.
Do you want to be a writer? Is that what you want to do full time?
Yes, I'd like to do it full time, but I'd also like to teach. That way, not only does my writing influence other people, but I can influence younger minds as well. At the local library in Maynardville, Tennessee, Union County, I will be doing a book signing September the 8th with a bunch of other local authors as well.
That's exciting.
Like my manuscript, I sent it into a bunch of different publications, and a lot of them actually came back to me, but Page Publishing offered the best deal for me and was very author-friendly and able to help me through the process.
Very good, Elisa. Thank you for that. You know, we try. We really do. We try to help guide the authors who come to us as much as we can. And, you know, it's really nice when we're recognized for it. So what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Let's get going on that first book or your next book. We're here for you. That is all the time we have for this edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you missed anything on this episode or any episode, you can always find the podcasts at 710WOR.com. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Talk to you later, and in the meantime, write on.